Seems it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempt the mental robbery, executed sloppily. The papacy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. There are some dark actors in this plane of existence, and there are so many avenues down which they trod. Our guest tonight fell into the clutches of some of the darkest, and they wove a tangled web throughout his life, leaving him to piece together the fragments of himself over decades of trauma and healing. And he's here tonight to tell us the story of his journey. Gordon Hamil, thank you so much for coming on Rogue Ways tonight to share with us.
Howdy.
It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So before we get started, I'd like to remind people of where they can find some more from me. So if you go to rogueways.org, there's all kinds of free stuff there for you to poke around in. You can also access how to get a tarot reading from me if you're interested in tarot and getting further insight into some part of your life that is either hidden or just difficult. Then tarot could be the choice for you, and I am very happy to offer that to people who are looking. You can also buy my book right now from me instead of Amazon. If you buy it from Amazon, it's $15 with tax and shipping added. If you buy it from me, it's just $15 flat. I'll ship it to you anywhere in the continental United States with an inscription to you. So it's personalized as well. And I always throw in a few Rogue Way stickers for people who take that option. So you can do that by going to paypal.me/Corey Sharman. And Corey Sharman is, of course, my pen name, QUORRISCHARMYN. So go to paypal.me/Corey Sharman to throw me $15 and I will mail that out on the soonest mailing day after that. And right now, there's actually 4 free books waiting for people who would like to subscribe to my Subscribestar. I've already got a lot of content up there. I've got a handful of subscribers, and I thank you very much if you're a subscriber or someone who donates to PayPal or throws out some super chats on YouTube. All of those really help me keep the show going and help support me. But subscribestar.com/rogue-ways is where you would access my Subscribestar content. And if you become a subscriber, then you get a free book. So if you're looking to buy a book, you may as well just become a subscriber, and get both at once. And I already have some of my audiobook for the book, Sine Curve of Aeons, up on the Subscribestar. I've got chapters, prologue through chapter 2. So there's 3 things to listen there and some, all of these are exclusive, obviously, only to Subscribestar. I also have some talks I'm doing with Michael Wan about the Susquehanna alchemy and related ideas that also are going along with the event we're doing this summer on the solstice. If you're one of the people who is participating in that, that's going to be a lot of fun. So you can get all of that on Subscribestar. And I have mentioned it the last few episodes. I'll stop soon, but just in case there's people who have missed it and we're looking for it, the podcast is back up. People are already taking advantage of that. That's a great option for people who can't be here to watch it live or just, YouTube isn't easy. The podcast is available for all of the episodes we do here. So any podcast app, Rogue Ways is there. And I finally got that functioning again. So we are going to get into it now. I always like to start with a pointless question of the episode, as people know. And Gordon, I wanted to ask you if you could get paid for doing anything at all, with the only caveat being that you would have to be adding in some way to our society or culture, what would you like to do to get money?
I play music.
Awesome. Do you play music already?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was on the track to be like a Christian recording artist when I was a kid. And so like my thing was voice. And I used to teach actually in a School of Rock setting here in Tucson.
And was that a Christian related?
No, that was just a high school thing.
Okay.
It was really fun though. I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss teaching. I don't miss teaching at a school.
Yes.
But I miss teaching.
Oh, I'm with you. I miss teaching a lot, actually. Just the teaching part, just the classroom part. Yeah, totally. Yep. All the other bullshit, if it was gone, I would do that for the rest of my life.
Right. How long have you been out of teaching?
Almost a year now. In June, it'll be a year. So whatever that is, 8 months or something, which is the longest I've gone without teaching for 14 years. So It's really weird for me, but it's like someone said, like this show is kind of in a way it's sort of teaching. It uses a lot of the same skills actually, which is interesting. So it kind of, but it doesn't have the same. I mean, interacting with kids is like really fun for me. They're just crazy, you know, super unique, awesome little individuals, and they still
little weirdness.
Yeah, I love the weirdness, and I like that a lot of them, at least their mind is still at least a little bit open, if not fully open. So that's nice too to be around.
Yeah, that's really good.
I'm sure that you had some of that too. So you also taught music at a high school?
Yeah,
that's cool.
For 2 years, and then like stuff started hitting me. My health started hitting me hard, and so I took a backseat to that and just did IT.
Yeah.
So that's what I do now.
It's a lot less stressful than dealing with all that crap.
Yeah. But I'm bored with it.
Yeah.
I feel you. Now I'm just completely bored with it.
I feel you. People don't get how really dynamic teaching is. It's like you can call it crazy and stressful, or you can call it dynamic, but it's like a billion things happening all the time. So any other job. I've heard that nursing and waiting, actually, like waiting tables are the only two comparable levels of how many things are going on at once. I'm interesting.
Yeah. Completely.
Well, so take us back from your early life where you were on track to become a Christian recording star.
So
what was that like?
So I grew up in the church, obviously.
And which denomination?
It was a Southern Baptist church, but it was it was growing into a mega church at the time.
Wow.
So there were like big names attached and stuff, and so we were doing tours and all sorts of.
Wow.
I did lots of demos for actual recording artists.
Wow.
At the time, and then I kind of had that whole crisis of you don't understand me, I don't understand you kind of thing with the whole church itself.
Wow.
And
when was that? How old were you?
I was 16, 17.
Perfect timing, really.
Yeah.
It's like gonna happen then or
to
never.
Crush your spirit.
Yeah.
Right. So then I got out, got married at a very young age. I was 20. I was 20 and she was 21. And we just started, the whole work life, where you just settle into the whole
routine and
system and routine and just find your way. And we were both going to school and working full time both.
Wow.
So
you kind of
get fun though.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like we went crazy and it was a blast. And I'm trying to think of how to get to
yeah. Well, it's like
A to B.
It's like you get to this part of your life and I feel like when you're in this part of your life, you're kind of like, I've arrived. Like, this is it. I figured it out. Like I got a job, I'm going to school, I have a wife, like everything's how things are supposed to be. And you kind of get just like swept into that and like distracted by it all. So you can kind of see the progression of like, being swept up in the church life and then that sort of rebellion from that and then getting swept up into this life you've created for yourself. And, were there any sort of disillusionments during this time where you were like, this is how the world is actually? No, you kind of go on autopilot. Like you were in the picket
fence
stage.
You think you figured it out. Oh yeah, totally. You think you've got it figured out and you just go with it and you do what you're told, like, I was a good kid. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and so you just fall into the jobs that are, you try and climb the corporate ladder and do all those things, and so that's what actually ended me up in trouble was getting the better job, is, getting that next better thing. Because I was good at a lot of things, but I wasn't an expert in any one specific thing.
Which I actually think is it's like a common trait of people who are really intelligent, is that, they're like, you kind of get bored quickly. So you like start looking into all sorts of different things. And so you become like pretty good at a lot of different things, but you're just like too boring in any one of them. So you're never going to become like the full expert in one unless, you do.
Oh, exactly. You nail one and you're like, I'm bored with this. I would try something else. So so I got good at a lot of things, figured out I was good at technology. So I fell into this company that did circuit boards for some government contracts and cameras, right? So I got really good at doing digital cameras for spy equipment.
Wow. Did you know it was for spy equipment?
No, not my first job, no.
Okay. So this is before you really got into the meat of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I got good at that, and they're like, oh, you can get a better job at this one, because in Tucson, there's a lot of that kind of industry. It's all built on military contract industry, So I got one job doing that, I got another job doing that, and then got a big job doing that. And
this is like a big name.
Yes.
Like everyone would recognize it if we were going to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I said it, everybody. In fact, I probably said it in the chat rooms before.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say a shout out to all the Rogue people, because I love you people.
Yay.
And they're awesome.
Me too.
I feel like naming people like Miss Connie on Romper Room.
Yeah.
And I see Brett and I see Stryker.
Yes.
And she did like a little Stryker.
Yeah. He's a little naughty.
Yeah. No, but that's why he's good to have around.
Yeah. There's so many good people in there. We're so lucky to have this community.
It's so awesome. I love these people so much.
Yes. We both love you all. We have Lori's in the chat room right now. Steve Mercer's in the chat room.
Lori cracks me up, man.
Lori's awesome. We've got Brett out there. Austin's in there. That's who we've got so far in DBE Media. So what's up, guys?
Oh, yeah. So then I got this big job at a prestigious company, right? Doing logistics. And they do big testing. Every time you go into a military contracting company, you get background checked and you do all these tests to see where you fit, right? So when I got into that one, there was a very extensive test process. And apparently I tested really specifically.
Yeah.
And it's this really creepy thing where you're sitting in a room with another guy who's sitting like a couple chairs away, just kind of observing you as you're doing this.
Weird.
And if anybody's taken a high security clearance test, like there's all these psychological questions on there, like, do you believe in ghosts? And what are your spiritual beliefs? And if somebody makes you mad, what do you do with that? And so I realized now they were testing for specific things in your background.
Yeah.
Right. So, to fit a very specific parameter.
Like very nuanced psychology.
Yes, very nuanced psychology. So apparently my security clearance came back less than 2 weeks, which for the people that were there were freaked out. And they're like, what? How did your thing come out so fast? It never happens like that.
Wow.
I don't know. This is my first thing, I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect.
Exactly. So they put me into this thing. I'm still doing a normal job. I'm working on UAVs.
Which is
drones.
I thought it was unidentified.
It's
something?
unmanned aerial vehicles.
Oh, that makes way more sense. I was like, how do you even do
Yeah.
projects on unidentified flight? Okay,
No,
gotcha.
so it was early autonomous UAVs.
Okay. Oh
So
wow.
I was doing, so I was working on the UAVs on the camera portion of those. So I knew the cameras very, very well. And I knew how to troubleshoot those cameras very well, which is the excuse they used to get me into, the next step and the next step and the next step. Eventually I got into doing live troubleshooting. So guys would go on missions in Kandahar or wherever, and this is what they were telling me, was I was doing live troubleshooting. I realized now it was something else. But I would sit there in this room with another handler guy. He was a civilian, so he was part of the company. He wasn't, but I was stationed on base also in on a military base. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And so we would sit there and observe the mission and how it was going, and I'm supposed to be paying attention to readouts, right? Coming back from the equipment, but I'm watching the missions actually live. So what's happening is I'm seeing what they're actually doing. And I was on several of those observatory missions. And then what happened was it was a mission where they were shooting a bunch of bad guys in kind of an intersection area. And there was a guy with what was clearly a camera. And these pilots, I should probably go back and explain how the UAVs worked at the drones at that time.
Yeah.
Were basically the targeting units. So you've got a UAV, which is really high altitude, kind of going over the whole mission, and off the, you could even have them off horizon line is 2 Apache helicopters that are just armed to the gills, and 2 mission guys that are sitting in a SUV somewhere that just has tons of equipment. They're the ones calling the shots.
Oh wow.
And so the helicopters just kind of hands off and everything's completely remote. So they're the guys in the SUV are basically targeting and shooting from wherever. So nobody on the ground will see or hear anything.
Wow.
Whatsoever. It's very strategic, very surgical.
Yeah.
Warfare. And
it's almost like all these different parts have to be played by all these different people. So, I imagine like psychologically it's a little easier for people to deal with what's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's this hands-off video game mentality.
Yeah.
That you can see in the pilots, the guys that are actually the gunners are getting a rise like they're playing a video game. And there's no connection to it whatsoever, no empathy or understanding of that's a human being.
Yeah.
So that being said, this particular mission was going down in this kind of, it was almost like a public square, but it was the intersection of a couple of roads. And they were trying to take out these specific targets, but they saw this guy with a white shirt, and he was clearly not dressed like everybody else. He was wearing a white Oxford, and he had something in his hand, and I could see it, and it's a camera. And I'm saying to the guy with me, that's a camera. That's not a gun. And they're calling it a gun. And they target the guy, because our machines will do it automatically. They'll target whoever is there.
Wow.
And it targeted this guy, and they kept calling and drilling their superior to let me let loose on this guy. Let me shoot him. And it takes a little while. They blow up the whole area. This guy's still alive, and they throw them into this white van shows up. They throw him into the van, and then the gunners are still calling out to blow up the van. And I look to the other guy, go, is that an ambulance?
Wow.
We're going to blow up an ambulance? And they blow it up.
Wow.
We find out later that they blew out everyone in that area, including 2 little girls that were standing kind of behind a wall. And so when you're in it, you sit back and you kind of, but you're part of the machine, so you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So you just go to the next thing. I got to go back to work and go work on this thing. So you never process it.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking it was 9 months after it happened that WikiLeaks happened.
Wow.
And so they post that specific mission.
I was going to say, I think I've seen that mission.
You have.
Okay.
Everybody has.
I'm just wearing my WikiLeaks shirt right now.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Hey, that's awesome.
This is old. I don't even know when I got that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So that brings it up and continually brings it up every time
you see it or hear it.
Cycle comes up or news happens with drone strikes or armed drones. That was pre-armed drones. Now they're completely autonomous and they're armed.
Fuck.
Which is even more terrifying.
Terrifying.
But and more surgical too, because no one will ever see it coming.
And more video game like too, because you're not flying and shooting.
Separated.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was Young Turks was on a couple months ago. No. Yeah. It was a year ago this time. And they were saying how the whole group, they were watching the video again, and calling the whole group, war criminals, and just took me right back again. Like every time something like that happens, it triggers you again to that trauma, and they keep wanting you traumatized to keep us in control. And I'm starting to recognize those things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's
planned.
It's choreographed.
Yeah.
It's even timed correctly. So, year and a half ago, I lost all of it. Like, I started losing control of just my mental function,
Yeah. I can relate.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us in the group can probably relate.
Maybe that's one of the things that kind of ties us together, is we're all healing from trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
So my marriage was failing. I had been addicted to opiates because I had broken my neck like years earlier. I was drinking a lot, trying to hide it from everything and isolating. And I finally had a breaking point, and I think you probably remember this, is that I disappeared.
Yeah.
And I checked myself into mental hospital because I was seriously, I wasn't suicidal, but
You had suicidal ideations.
Ideations.
Yeah.
Yes. That's, what do they call that? SID or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is.
I don't either, but I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I was definitely wanting to check out in every single way. And so I checked myself in. They wouldn't keep me because I wasn't crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And
they're like, no, this is all very normal, so you have to go now. You're like, shit.
So they just stabilize you, right?
Right.
And oh, dang it, I forgot my magnets to show you. So in the process of going to the emergency room and I need to back up a little bit more. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
So that year before, I had watched one of those documentaries. I think it was a Vice documentary on TIs, on targeted individuals.
See, Vice has some good content.
It's
just a lot of it is crap, but
a lot of garbage. If like any media,
right,
through the garbage. And they had this guy that was being gang stalked, who had a thing in his neck, and he stuck magnets to it, right? And it stuck.
Wow.
I'm like, huh, that's weird. So I have all these rare earth magnets from computer stuff that I do.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, huh, I wonder where that is. And I stick it to it and it sticks.
Whoa. So you already knew that you had some sort of implant, which is what led you to try this magnet thing? Or were you just like, I wonder if I do?
Yeah. No, I had a suspicion.
Okay.
But I don't remember anything specifically.
What made you have the suspicion?
Okay. So the reason I had the suspicion was years before that, I would wake up in my room and it was like sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to move or talk, but there were people standing around my bed. Like I'd look at the end of my bed and there were always 3 people around my bed. Not always. Twice that I directly remember. And I woke up that morning after that happened and I asked my wife, I'm like, what? There were 3 people here. I swear to God, there were 3 people in our room. She goes, that happened.
She experienced it too.
She experienced the whole thing too. Mm-hmm. So I was like, wow. I'm thinking is this like just sleep paralysis or old hag or what? Yeah. Or am I being abducted? Right.
Right. Because we have those.
Right. Because they're programmed in there.
Yeah. There's like a cover. It's a really convenient cover.
Right.
Because who can do anything about aliens? No one. Right. So they're just like, well, some people get abducted and you leave it alone.
No record of it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So the second time it happened, I remember sitting up because I'm thinking this is a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I sit up as much as I can. I'm trying to talk. And I say, if you're coming after me, you're gonna. So this tells you what I was thinking at the moment. I said, you're gonna have to go through the God inside me. I'm like angry, right?
Yeah.
And the guy in the middle looks back and stops. So at that point, they look like babushkas, like with a hunched old lady.
Yeah, all covered
with
up.
The hood on, right? And I couldn't tell if it was like a guy with a backpack and a hoodie or a babushka or something like that, right? And as I'm trying to say this, as I say that, the guy looks at me and goes, and like eyeballs me for a minute, and he scoffs. He goes like that, and then they walk off. Huh. And I go back to sleep because I don't know if I'm drugged or whatever.
Who knows?
Who knows what they're using to do that? But that's when I'm like, this isn't alien. This is not spiritual. That's a dude.
That's a person in here
That is
right
a guy
now.
reacting to me.
Yeah.
And so that's when I start suspecting. And so when I saw that the guy on the targeted individuals thing, that's what made me think, I've got this thing here.
Wow.
Shortly after I saw that, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
And where the brain tumor is, it's this very specific thing. It's called a pituitary adenoma, is what I was diagnosed with. And it's a little speck that sits on your pituitary gland right under your frontal lobe. So it's kind of like here and here.
Huh.
And it's never grown. Like for the longest time, I had to go in for MRIs like every month, and then every 6 months, and so they could watch it so it didn't grow, and it never grew. It stayed the same size, and so I start looking into implant stuff for that specific company. Well, it turns out that specific company has patents on very specific implants, right?
This is the company that you had worked for on the UAV program. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
That specific company. And I find the patents, and they have online lectures that you could have subscribed to at the time. They were live webinars where these doctors would show you how they do it and what they're doing. And it's exactly in where a pituitary adenoma would be, and this thing in the back of my neck.
Those are the two.
Those are two of the spots. There's also one they put in your arm and one they put in your belly. But it's all for biotelemetry of UAVs, which is basically so you can control a UAV with your brain.
Oh, wow.
And
is this where we should show that diagram?
Yeah, go ahead and show that.
All right, here we go.
Because this is the one I found without the company logos.
Okay. So we've got the implanted antenna in the brain.
Yep.
It's got an arrow to something outside of the head, it looks like, and then an arrow from there to the receiver.
Right.
And then there's another one in the neck, and then, like you said, in the arm and in the body cavity.
Right.
What is MBSE?
I can't remember the acronym, but it's for sending signal.
Okay. Approach to biotelemetry. So they've got patents on this and diagrams and like how-to videos, and all of this is just out there. But people would still, say like, oh, that's crazy. This is not
Well, you wouldn't know it unless you're looking for it.
Yeah.
You have to know those specific things, and you have to be kind of in that world to know that it's even happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. They're not like out there actually advertising it. They're just also not completely hiding it.
No, it's all out there. You can find the patents. They're all online.
That's creepy.
So it took me years to figure out afterwards what they were doing. I was not actually doing live troubleshooting. They were training me.
They were probably like recording your brain waves and seeing like when he sees this is what his brain's doing. This is how we can train him, using this information to do this in the future.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And I think just from my reactions to the actual battles, and how it traumatized you and everything, I was out. I was done. They cut the cord. And
they got rid of you.
They got rid of me.
They were like, never mind.
Never mind. Don't renew the contract. You'll be fine. You'll land on your feet.
So the time where you're experiencing these people being in your rooms, being in your room was during the time where they still had you on that program, and
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was in that time period. And it took me a lot. You know how the brain processes trauma is we dump it out.
Yep.
And we block it.
Yep.
And
we have a really hard time remembering it.
Have a really hard time.
Yep.
And it's taken years of trying to just go through that over and over and over and over and over and over to try and get some sort of coherent story.
Right.
And
this is part of why I feel like when you hear these people who are like, you know, this is what happened to me, and it's like this, and it all like sort of like, unless they've understood it and dealt with the trauma of it long in the past, and so this is now their coherent, you know, rational like way of looking at it, then like that makes sense. But a lot of times when people are like really well practiced and really well put together, I'm like, I just don't believe you necessarily, like, because that's very unlikely.
So true.
Yeah.
Like that would fuck you up in so many ways. How these people just, although, I mean, telling the story helps, which is why I wanted to tell this story, is because it helps me process it.
And it also, for anyone who might watch, who might be like, oh, this is also what happened to me, that's very helpful to be validated like that. I think that's helpful to put out there.
If somebody else has gone through this, I wouldn't feel so alone, you know?
Right.
And it helps you work through that.
Yes.
That whole stuff. But getting back to getting there.
Well, can I point out one more thing before we get back to there? I know that some people would say possibly like, oh, if he had MRIs, it would have found whatever because it's magnetic, it's metal, blah, blah, blah. But it's not actually true. They have ways of, and this is what they did, for example, for my spine is wrapped in bone. And so, my spinal implants are wrapped in bone. And so they don't set off x-ray machines, for example. So there's ways of cloaking materials inside of a body so that they wouldn't be necessarily picked up by that sort of procedure.
Also,
just
ceramics,
in case anyone out there was wondering.
Yeah, and it may not be metal.
True. Yes. Very good point.
Ceramics can be magnetized.
Wow.
So, and also titanium is not magnetic, so you wouldn't know.
Well, there you go.
So when they put, my wife broke her C6 and 7, and they put a titanium plate and like a bone fragment to fuse them, the graft. That's not magnetic.
Oh,
mine.
So I have titanium, so they're not magnetic then.
No, they shouldn't be unless they used metal rods or screws.
That's what I think. They use metal screws. So I think
that's what it is.
I have to do CT scans or whatever, but.
Okay, yeah. So magnetic resonance you can't do.
Right.
Right, okay. But they tested, so when I went into, this is a great story. So I go into, I know this is happening now. When I checked myself into the emergency room, I said, hey, I've got this thing, you can't do an MRI on me. And they're like, what? Let me see. And they're like, have you had neck surgery, back surgery, that kind of thing? Do you have, and I go, nope. That never happened. But I do have this thing, and I stick a magnet to my neck, and I show the doctor. I pull it up and show her. She literally pauses and runs out of the room.
Weird.
Her technician was still sitting there taking notes, like going, what the hell happened? And she never came back.
What?
That doctor just bolted.
I bet she was like getting all of this information that's somewhere inside of her. She's like, some of these patients are actually right, maybe, but like, no, it can't be. And then you came in and did that, and she was like, oh my God, they are right. And just like lost it, like can't deal with reality.
Yeah, which made me think, how many other people has she seen like this?
Yeah, good.
And then they were just going to let me go because they're like, I'm sure from the outside, it just looked like I was having a bad midlife crisis or something, and not having all this other stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
But I needed to detox bad. I needed to get the opiates out of my system. I needed to stop drinking. I just needed to do that first before I could do anything else and acknowledge anything else, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent method of attack.
So I check myself in, and thank God for my wife. She knows the whole system, right? Because she's a nurse in mental health.
Oh, okay.
So
she really knows it.
Yeah, she knows it. She's been through it and knows. She's like, well, okay, you need to check yourself into this mental facility, get stabilized so that they can treat, so that the insurance will pay for the rehab, which I didn't know any of that. So I go into, finally find a rehab that will help you with sleep disorders, because that was another thing I was having all these sleep disorders, like seizures at night.
Wow.
And I slept with a CPAP because I would stop breathing. So it was all of it, but all of it was interconnected because of where the tumor thing is.
Yes. And the trauma of it.
And the trauma, right, exactly.
And you're like, if this was done to you at night while you're sleeping, part of your brain knows that, and part of your brain is like, don't sleep.
Yeah, right.
Protect yourself. So
yeah. I'm having terrible insomnia, and insomnia will drive you crazy.
Yeah, like faster than anything.
Yeah, which is why they keep you up. When you're
targeted.
What do they call it? Targeted.
Yep.
They do that on purpose.
They do it in torture too.
In torture, exactly, and in prisons and all that stuff, because they're trying to break you.
Yeah,
and in
it
fact,
works.
It totally works in so many ways. So prior to that, speaking of targeting, I had all these weird cars around my house, and the whole black helicopter thing, zooming around my house. In fact, I taped them and posted it to Facebook, right? I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing buzzing our house? Because Davis Mountain is just, I think, 20 miles north of us here. And so I'm like, what the hell are those guys doing? They're buzzing a freaking neighborhood?
And you can like,
just cruel.
I don't know about you, but when it happened to me, it's like the whole house would like shake. And I'm like, dude, this is way too close. You're not allowed to fly this close to my house. So this is crazy.
I could see the guy's face. In fact,
oh my God,
he was so close. He clipped some of our trees in the back.
Jesus.
And all the neighbors kind of ran out, and it was scaring the hell out of the neighbor kid, which is what pissed us all off. And I run out, and I'm taping them with my phone, and the guy is looking at me the whole time as they're going by, like we locked eyes.
Wow.
And it was super creepy. I post it to Facebook, and I get these crazies come out of nowhere, just targeting me specifically, going after me just for posting it. And I'm like, that guy can't be real. Like are there that many really super patriotic crazies?
I think they hired, there's this many people that they've hired to just, because if you're this type of person who's like, there's all these people that are like, they're not even necessarily sociopathic. They're like lacking strong morals or strong emotional attachment to morals or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe that. I don't have the right terminology, but those people, and you're like, I'll pay you like $30 an hour and I'll give you a list of people, and you just go electronically and like message them and mess with them and fuck with them. The person will be like, fuck yeah, that's easy money. And like, I don't care, you know?
What's that job listing got to live? Oh, you're a psychopath?
Yeah.
Hey, come work for us.
Well, just like that testing you underwent, there's testing that's like, oh, okay, this person doesn't have any resistance to this type of treatment to other humans, so let's have them do this. Like, I think we underestimate how many grunts are found and hired that are not opposed to this. And I also, especially now, a lot of this could just be bots. AI is so much more advanced than we know. And so to act like a human and pass for it, especially just through typed words, is like really easy.
We were getting a UAV to fly from the coast. This was for a Navy project, from the coast to an aircraft carrier in the Pacific somewhere, autonomously, completely. If we could do that 15 years ago, the AI has got to be so advanced.
Yes.
It's got to be ridiculous, because that's just telemetry. We can figure that can be figured out.
Yeah.
Like nothing. But at the time it was like magic.
Yes.
And it looked like magic. And that's how they indoctrinate us as people, as employees, or as in just the culture, is look at this wonderful thing that we do. Isn't it great? It's beautiful, it's elegant, and it kills people.
And it kills people.
It's easily. Just so easily.
Yeah.
And finding out that the guy in the white shirt was a Jordanian journalist. He was a member of RT.
Wow.
For the press.
Wow.
And not RT. It was Reuters. I'm sorry. Reuters.
What? That's even
crazier.
Worse, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't want it to be, but I just understand that people place Russian life like a little lower than
exactly.
the Western world or whatever.
Well, he was from Jordan. He's brown,
Oh, okay. So we don't have to care. Yeah.
Whatever. We don't care. We don't care that he had 5 kids and a wife, and
wow.
It was.
And that's a war crime.
Oh, it was clearly a war crime, and
which is part of why WikiLeaks wanted to release it.
Yeah, and the chatter between the gunners was even worse. If you go back and listen to that and watch it with the sound, it's so sociopath. It's psychopathic. It's not even. It's just so disturbing on so many levels that it's, comes back hard.
So there was a question asked, which is a good question. If you had an MRI and this implant is magnetic, but how did it not affect that?
It's really funny. They would always target specifically this one, never this one.
Okay. Yeah, because they do it for a certain portion of your body, depending on what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even when I have the X-rays still, that even when they're looking for it, it doesn't show up on X-ray, but it would show up on an MRI. But they don't do the MRI on that portion specifically.
Wow.
They target that one.
Wow.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think it would be cool if you want to grab the magnets later at some point, and I can, fill in the meantime or whatever and show us. That would be really awesome. But and I have a random question. So this one company with the patents and the implants that you saw in this diagram that we saw, there would then possibly be other companies that would do implants in different locations in the body, right? So this is maybe just speculative, but I'm just wondering if there's people out there who fear they might have an implant. It's not in one of the locations you named. Like, it just might be a different company doing different sorts of testing or whatever, right?
Oh yeah. All they have to do is license the patent. Any company can get that through that other company, and they could do it anywhere. They could be doing the exact same thing. Other governments, I'm sure, are doing it, and probably doing it better.
Yes. And probably doing it through companies, because then it's a lot harder to hold them accountable for it. It's like some random CEO might go to jail someday, maybe, but no one.
And that's the thing, is that's why I can comfortably say that now, is because there's no way. First of all, I was a failed experiment.
Yeah.
Second of all, there's no way any of this is traceable.
Yeah.
It's through a private company. There's no
It's like, even if you could convince a surgeon to go in and take this out, it's not like there's going to be like a patent number and like a, you know, barcode on it or whatever.
Exactly. There's no way they can go, oh, that's blah, blah, blah. And I could hold them accountable. That's never going to happen.
No.
So, which led me to finally getting better.
Wait, I think we skipped some things.
Oh, we did. Probably. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just, because part of what we talked about, or in the outline that we have, there's some self-hypnosis.
Oh, right. So getting back to try and figure out when this happened and why I had these in there. I had already been doing self-hypnosis before, which led me to some past life trauma.
Wow.
Like what you were talking about. And, but also led me to find some childhood sexual abuse that showed me that I was symptomatic of childhood sexual abuse, right?
Wow, yeah.
So when I was through the therapy and rehab and just friends, they're like, who had been through that, like, man, you really should look into that in your past, because you're showing signs. There are things that are happening to you that are, it just sounds like that, right?
Yeah.
So I started doing the self-hypnosis and digging into that, found it really happened. Some of my family members knew about it.
Oh God.
And of course it's those family secrets that keep us sick, right?
Right.
Which is one of the things that made me a perfect candidate for what they were doing.
I was going to say that when they're doing this testing, there's some part of it, whether they knew like it was sexual or not, some part of it was like, oh, he's already been broken. He's going to be really easy to manipulate. Like, that's why they chose you, I think.
Exactly. They want
it's fucked up.
Smart guy that's already fucked up. Mm-hmm. He'll be perfect. He'll be a perfect candidate for controllability.
Because you hadn't healed it yet too, right? They're like, oh, It's still broken. This access point is still there. Like, I really want to emphasize that, because I tried to highlight it in the other episode I did about trauma and whatever and all of those, but I just want people to understand how really genuinely important it is to heal your own trauma for very many reasons. But the outside manipulation possibility is a really good one to...
Huge. You become susceptible to anything and everything.
Because they know exactly what they're looking for.
Exactly. And they will exploit all of those weaknesses 24/7.
I mean, even if you're not targeted by like military or whatever, like even just if you're just looking at like the societal level of re-traumatizing, but all of these levels are important to consider, you know, your own trauma and your own healing. Right.
Exactly.
Not that everyone has like these horrifying things that they've hidden for themselves, but just even little things where, you know, you've just never really dealt with it before. It's like, that's important.
And it's hard.
It's hard
to do.
Yeah. It's an understatement.
Yes. That is an understatement. But I mean, just like I want to bring up something.
Yeah.
In James True's book, when he was talking about, I think it's the first chapter, he's talking about absorbing those labels of sinner, and I can't remember what the second one was. But
is it racist?
Racist, that's what it was.
Okay, because that's one of the ones he talks about a lot.
That's right, exactly. Those being a control mechanism.
Yeah. And
I was thinking about that going through 12-steppers, because all rehab is like based on 12-step.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking about that when they make you stand up in those meetings and go, hi, my name is Gordon, I'm an addict, you know? And you have to identify yourself every time you talk.
Every time.
Right? Every single time. And it's just reiterating that same control.
Good point.
And you can't tell me that that's not a control mechanism.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to tell people this for years, that you're just giving up one control for another set of control.
Yes.
When you give away that control to whatever it is, the church,
Yep.
a company, AA, anybody, they make you do those kind of things. Those are ritualistic.
Yeah.
And it keeps that cycle going in your brain.
And like, if that's, you know, if you're like getting off heroin or something, and this like 12-step stuff is, you know, kind of a stepping stone to health or something, like, I guess use it. But know, yeah, like what you're saying, like know that you're, I think when you're saying that too, you're like disempowering yourself. You're like, I'm an addict. Like, I'm nothing but an addict.
Yeah.
I can't be better than an addict. And it's like, you can be, and you aren't actually just this for the rest of your life. You're just like, you've been this for a time, and you're going to be something else now.
You're going to do something else. You're not. And that's the thing, that people that can't get out of that mindset, why they stay in that, is because that's how they identify.
Yes. Yes. It's super disempowering. And even that's, what is it? It's like the first or second step or something, maybe the third, is that you have to then give up all your power to a higher power, which I'm like, I'm all for.
Because you're incapable.
Right. Yes. That's the
first
part.
thing, is that you can't do it on your own.
Yes.
Somebody else has to do it for you.
And I'm all for spiritual allies, like 100%. Like, get your spiritual allies down. But
bullshit,
yeah,
man.
Don't give yourself up to them. They don't want you to do that if they're good allies.
Right?
Right.
Not your ally.
No.
And they're all controlled. They're all given up their control to this greater thing, this culture of, we're going to heal you. And you can't do it by yourself. You got to do it with us.
Because you'll always be broken. But we'll help you get through that. Yeah.
Like, who's in there going, listen, man, you're not fucked up.
Yeah.
You just got to stop doing that thing.
You got to heal the trauma.
Let yourself fix all that shit, man.
Well, and we have enough data now to see that 12-step programs are actually incredibly unlikely to help you. Incredibly. They have the lowest success rate. It's something like 5 or 10% of people stay sober in 12 steps.
Less than vaccines.
Yeah, less than vaccines. And we know,
don't trust them.
Right. And we know that these other methods that people have started developing based on, you know, studies where, you know, the rats, for example, they showed, you know, at first they were like, look at rats, they'll get addicted to cocaine and heroin, and it's so crazy. This is how addictive they are. But they've also done studies that showed that if the rats are in like a happy, comfortable environment with their litter mates or whatever they're called, their pack, they won't. None of them will. They will not. They'll taste it and they'll get high and they'll be like, no, I don't need that. I'm good. And so we found all of this evidence that there's actually a lot more going on with addiction than like the addictiveness of a substance. And it has a lot more to do with emotion and connection. And yet we still send people to 12 steps.
I know. Isn't it ridiculous?
It's crazy.
And even smart recovery.
It's maddening.
Like smart recovery is a little bit better. I don't know how many people understand that or have been in that, but smart recovery is a little bit better because it's not so Jesus focused.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of the same thing. It's still a 12-step program.
They still have that embedded into it.
There's ritual and there's sacred text. And you can't tell me that's not a cult.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like, seriously, really? That's a cult.
Well, and did you, I don't know if you knew this about Bill W, whatever, the guy, he actually, and I just learned this in the past year and it blew my mind, but he actually was a huge proponent of nutritional therapy because a lot of addiction also has to do with, you know, these really horrifying nutritional states that we're in where we don't have most of what we need. And so a lot of that drives like depression and anxiety and addiction. And so he was a big proponent of like getting your nutrition straightened out, but they have like suppressed that. That's not in the big book. That's not in any meeting. Nobody talks about nutrition.
I never heard that.
Yeah, I just learned it too. I was like, dude, and it makes so much sense. If you're like depleted in some critical thing, your brain isn't functioning well, your emotional state's going to be off and your body's going to be screwed and you're going to feel like crap and you're going to be more likely to seek.
Wow.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
So here's what ties into that is I was so overweight at the time because of all the drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I didn't do illegal drugs. It was all prescription opiates, right?
Right.
And a plethora of other ones for the the hormones and fixing this and that and
Wow.
and the inflammation. And 22, when I got back, I checked with the pharmacy to see how many current prescriptions I had open. There were 22 different prescriptions that these doctors, because they send you to this specialist and that specialist, the endocrinologist and a neurologist and all these people, and they're all giving you shit and just fucking you up even more every single time you take one.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I got back, I got off all of it, got back, and
you got off all 22 prescriptions?
Yeah,
That's
I got
amazing.
Off everything.
That's
well,
amazing.
I wasn't on all of them at one time.
Okay, you had access to 22.
Yeah, I had access, but they were pushing them hard.
It's still, yeah.
So I started eating better when I was there. Figured, okay, I gotta keep this going. But my other, still at the time, my other choice was brain surgery for this thing.
Oh God.
So my thought is, okay, I can either go on, try and fix my brain tumor with diet and fix my hormones, or I can have brain surgery, because that was the path I was on, right?
Yeah.
So
you knew that nutrition and diet could be a part of your healing process, even though probably no doctors were suggesting that?
No doctor was suggesting it. What happened was, when I got back, I was having seizures at night. And my wife was looking into it. She's like, what is causing these seizures? Why would you have a seizure in your sleep?
Yeah.
And it was from the thing in my pituitary fucks up your hormones, right? So I had to get all my brain chemistry right. And what they used to do in the 20s, they knew this in the 20s.
We just conveniently forgot whatever you're about to tell us.
Yeah, conveniently forgot that a ketogenic diet fixes seizures in the brain.
Wow. That seems like a pretty significant finding. Like, what the fuck?
Right? How does not every doctor know this?
Yeah.
Like, this is not literally brain surgery,
Yeah.
Nor is it rocket science. It's the stupidest thing.
Wow.
So
cutting out carbs, basically.
Well, cutting out carbs, but also we kind of re-engineered it for brain health, because your brain is made of cholesterol and
fat, right? Yeah.
Right? So a high-fat diet, low carb, and start off with heavy greens and stuff like that. Like, I'm just now working carbs back in, but in very limited amounts.
And very specific, I'm sure, types. And,
yeah. So it took only like 2 weeks for my seizures to stop.
Wow. That's pretty epic.
After that, I'm like, well, okay, if that's all that I have to do, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
To never have that happen again.
Excellent.
And a byproduct of that was I lost 65 pounds.
Wow. That's so cool.
But my emotional state went up leaps and bounds. Like, the way I was able to deal with the trauma and actually introspect, my brain was finally working again.
Yeah.
For once, and it hadn't worked in years.
Wow.
Like, I felt so stupid. I was like this smart guy stuck in a stupid idiot body.
Yeah, this thing that can happen to you where you literally can't think very clearly or very quickly, or you're forgetful, and all these things. Like, hormones can fuck you up.
Like, have you read or seen Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King?
No.
It's a series on, I guess, Audience or something. But at any rate, there's part of that where this serial killer is paralyzed. He's stuck in his brain. But the way he writes it, being stuck in his brain, he's seeing the world through a computer screen, and he can't get out. He can't get out to the real world to even interact with it. It's so accurate of how you feel. It's really creepy watching it, because you're like, yeah. That's how I was stupid.
Yeah. Like this is what was holding me back.
But also, like, the big thing that I've noticed is from the trauma and I think this was started in the sexual abuse, was that you don't even know what you're feeling, because your brain has that defense mechanism where it separates you.
Vacate. Yep.
You vacate. And I would clock out like that.
Yeah.
Like things would start happening. Okay. Like I remember doing that and not even thinking to react to a thing.
Nope.
And now I'm thinking, oh, that's how I feel. That's a weird feeling, to be able to feel something you never felt before, an emotion, you know?
Yeah.
So I realized that that's what I was doing my whole life.
Yes.
Up until now.
Right. How powerful is that?
How powerful is that?
It's crazy too, because people listening, unless you have gone through this, like, don't get that, like, you literally never really felt your emotions. You like could identify emotions. You could be like, this is sad and this is happy and I should be sad now, or I'm gonna like put on the affect of sadness now or whatever, but like you never are in touch with them. You're never really feeling them, and it sounds insane, but it's like that's what's actually happening.
But it happens to so many of us. That's what autism is.
That's a really good point.
Because they don't see their feelings. They don't know what you're feeling. They learn it.
They learn how to mimic it.
They learn how to mimic it, but they don't really know the tools to feel those things, to work through them, like you or I would, like getting eye contact.
Yeah.
And they have to be conditioned.
Yes.
To look normal, and they do that. High functioning autists do that in a very productive way, and they look and act like everybody else.
Yeah.
But inside their mind, they're not getting the same thing that we're getting.
Right.
And I was finally recognizing.
Wow.
Oh, that's what I was doing. But now I'm actually feeling those feelings in real time. Wow. And unless you can feel those things and recognize them, how are you going to heal from it until you know what you're dealing with?
Yeah, because you literally have to go back and feel it all to get through it and to process it all.
Which is in the outline, I think I wrote "Here Be Dragons."
Yeah.
That's where the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
That's where it's really, really tough, because you're an emotional wreck, because all these things that you never processed is all processing at the same time.
And it's really overwhelming. And it's
so overwhelming.
I already love your wife so much because I know how hard it is for people to be around that. And she sounds like an awesome lady.
I can't imagine what I put her through for this.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But she saved my life, for sure.
That's so awesome.
And she just left for work. She's like, I can watch it on YouTube later, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But yes, she was amazing throughout this. But I don't know where I was going with the next thing.
Well, I just find it fascinating because I think I like hit on this over and over again, but I'm really fully, now that we're talking about it, and I'm really relating to the things you're saying. And so I'm remembering my own experiences of trauma and healing. And then when you brought up autism, I was like, wow, it is like that. Like, it is like this total vacation from your emotions. But I've never really thought about them. I have thought about them in connection with each other. And I've even thought about them in connection with AI and how, that would be a similar sort of intelligence. Because it also has no emotions or no connection to the emotions, right? And it has to be trained to emulate them or whatever. And I'm just kind of making that whole interconnection between AI, autism, and trauma.
But you can't engineer a conscience into something.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Any kind of AI is going to be a psychopath.
Yeah.
And if you do give them emotions, they will have the emotions, but not the empathy.
Yes.
Because they will never know how to be that person.
Wow.
They will never be able to put themselves outside of themselves to consider what they've been through and what you've been through, because they've never had real experience, right?
Right.
Unless there is no such thing as consciousness, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is right?
Oh, yeah. What? No. I feel like that's one of those silly things where, like, it's because so science can't prove it yet, it doesn't exist. I'm like, man, there was all kinds of things science hadn't proven that still existed until science proved them. Like, what? That doesn't even mean anything.
It's the dumbest thing. Maybe he doesn't have a consciousness.
He probably doesn't. He's probably a robot himself.
Yeah, right?
So on here it says, as part of this sort of healing process, that you found the verification of implants.
Oh yeah, that was the patents.
Okay.
The patents and that graphic that I found, and them actually, in fact, it came out in 2017. Those patents, and that there's a doctor, I can't remember. I probably shouldn't remember his name, but that was training all the other doctors in that company for this specific thing. And that was the eureka moment for me, going, oh yeah, right. Okay. It's all coming together. I'm not crazy. It happened.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Yeah. But I'll never be able to prove it. So
yeah.
Whatever.
I mean,
and that's, I think, thank God, actually, because if I could prove it, I'd get stuck on that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to go past it and fix myself, if that makes sense. Does that make any sense?
No, that's a really powerful statement and realization to have, that, and I think you're right, that, like, if we get caught up in the sort of victim aspect of it, of like, this is what was done to me, look, here's a proof, this is what was done to me, and you're always focusing on that part of where you were a victim. It's like, you can't be a healed person and be a victim at the same time.
Yeah, I was thinking about it in fractals. Like, the world is full of, everything is fractals, right?
Right.
But if we focus on that one speck of light, that one dot in the fractal, you're going to miss the whole fractal.
Yeah.
You miss it's like that Bruce Lee quote. Like, if you focus on it's like a finger pointing at the moon. If you focus on the finger, you miss all the heavenly glory.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But if you don't focus on the one event that's happening, or the one event that they're trying to distract us with, we miss the beauty of life, of everything that's around us, right?
Yeah,
our loved ones, ourselves, what we like.
Yeah.
What we actually like, not what they told us that we should like. Because God knows I like The Mandalorian, but it's not a speck of light on my.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's really it takes you out of the moment, and the moment is the only time that you can truly appreciate being alive.
Right. Like, and that was the separation, is you slowly have to get back to the moment,
Yeah.
of living in the moment, which is also really hard to do. But it's like that Buddhist thing of the guy eating the nectarine or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
There's some Buddhist text. Somebody in the chats will probably know.
Yeah.
But a Buddhist monk eating a nectarine and understanding all the flavors, like tasting it with each taste bud, like separating yourself down to a molecular level and then going back. Like in addiction, they tell you, okay, go wash your hands and feel the water, or go take a shower and feel the water on your face to get you back into the moment.
Yes.
But if you find a way to get there all of the time, you're always there.
Yes. And they can't take you out of it.
And they can't take you out of it. Right. Exactly. They will try.
Oh, yeah.
Every second of the day. But if you're always feeling and seeing and experiencing what you're experiencing, like your emotions, and you're not separating yourself from yourself, that's the only way I can see. I mean, I'm not a great evangelist for this because I only know what's worked for me.
Right. That's pretty powerful.
But that is what got me out of trauma and victimhood and the addiction, and not identifying myself as an addict. I was never just an addict, because I know clinically they say now that there's addicts and then there's people who are addicted. I guess there's some sort of that, but I have a hard time separating that.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like, man, if I did it, any chucklehead can do this.
I'm with you.
Right?
Right. But people have this tendency to look at someone who's healed and be like, oh, well, you're not fucked up. Or people will look at me and be like, what? You did never used to do those things. I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I've just come a long way.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's really easy to sort of minimize that in people who are healed and be like, oh, you're just not as bad as me. You don't really get it. Like, I'm in the midst of it. And you're like, I don't get it because I'm not you, but I get it because I actually was there. Like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have the same sort of feeling. I'm like, if I could do it, like, anybody can. Like,
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's not to say that it's easy. It's not easy at all. It's the hardest thing.
No.
But you can do it.
It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. It'll be also the most worthwhile thing you've ever done.
Yes.
To take your control back from everything, and not because a doctor told you to, because he's a doctor and you gave him that control to do that.
Yeah.
And not because a 12-step program told you to, because you gave them license to call you an addict.
Good call.
Right?
Yep. You gave that away.
You gave that away. Every time we say, well, I'm just an employee, you're giving away that control.
Yeah.
Or every time we try and define ourselves, we're giving away control.
That's an excellent point too, because we're now all stuck in this sort of identity politics, like craziness and madness. And it's the same sort of thing. It's like, if you identify yourself as this thing, like, you've now reduced yourself. You're just that. You're in this box now.
Yeah.
That's
right.
all you are. And what value is that? Like, how good is that? It's not very good. You're actually this very complicated, multifaceted, ever-changing, dynamic person, but you put yourself in this single box. Like, it's the same sort of thing. You're giving away all your power. You're giving away all yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like music. Every time they genreify some great music, it kind of kills it.
Yeah. Okay, I feel the same way about my book, because people ask me all the time, what genre is your book? And I'm like, I don't know. I could call it a lot of things, and none of them are going to tell you what it's actually like. Like, right. None of them will. I'm sorry. But I know that people kind of need it to be like, oh, I sort of like this genre, not that. And like, I get it, so I try. But it's like, there is no genre that really fits it.
They look at it as like, how am I going to market this thing? How are we going to sell it? But great art is never always defines genre.
Why, thank you.
Right? Well, no,
Take
it's
that
true.
as a compliment.
Like, what is Johnny? I mean, I'm looking at Johnny's art right now.
Yeah.
What genre is that? Like,
Yeah.
I see superhero shit in some of it,
Uh-huh.
and nature stuff, and a squid tree,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
What is that?
Which is what makes it so cool.
It's pretty rad.
What makes it a great thing is that, like, I've been watching after Neil Peart died.
Oh yeah.
If you're a Rush fan,
Right.
you obviously know, but they kind of defied genre, which made it great art. Or Zappa, or all these things, all these people that won't be like the great artists that won't be admired within their time, because you couldn't label them.
Yeah.
And they didn't give that control away to somebody else.
And it's more pure, and because you're like doing what came out of you instead of like, oh, I'm gonna now write a mystery and like sit down and like fill in all the blanks. It's like you just like plop this out as a pure creation.
Yeah, that's why they can use the same formula for country music as pop.
Yes.
Because it's all garbage. Yeah. It's all just prefabricated tinker toys.
Oh my God. And the more I pay attention to it, the more I'm like, we're all screwed. This is really bad.
And that's the other hard thing is once we see, and I'm sure everybody in this group knows, once you start seeing the strings, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
You start seeing the mechanisms that control the world, you can't unsee those things. You can't get your innocence back.
No.
But all we can do is go on with what we have now, right? The understanding that we have now. I can move on from that, and I can either choose to do something great with it, or I can eat the shit that they're trying to do.
Yes. And give up. And it's all this sort of like, abdication of yourself, like we're talking about, giving yourself away from them is like kind of everything. It's kind of like the whole problem. Like every aspect of the trap is in some way reliant on you giving away yourself in some way, even if it's as simple as like watching this television show, which I do. But like, you're still like, oh, here's me for half an hour. It's yours now. And like every distraction we have, every trauma that they induce on us, every label that we're supposed to acquire and parade around proudly, like they're all aspects of giving away yourself.
Yeah. And we do it so freely.
Yeah. We're trained from
little
babes.
Trained from like, with our educational system, everything's timed in little increments so that you don't get too much. You get the information, but you don't know how to feel about it.
And it's targeted at your oh God, I'm forgetting the word. Your development,
Right.
Like it's literally timed.
It's to engineer the critical thinking out of you.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
That's why we have 30-second commercials and what do they call it? Spit edits, where they do the fast edits and in music videos and movies now.
Oh, it's just like constantly,
because your brain can't stick to one thing, and that's why we can't have conversations anymore with people.
I know, it's really hard.
Isn't it terrible?
Mm-hmm.
Like I posted that thing today about fighting Apple, because that's what we do. We do repairs in IT, and we're constantly at odds with Apple and having the right to repair their things, even though they'll sue anybody and everybody because you fixed your own thing.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. So
we're constantly having to fight them. But I tried to explain to a guy today, like, this is what we did. We propped up these companies, all the big pharma, big tech. Like, we made that because we worshiped money more than people.
And ourselves. And
the clock went off, man. He was like, I got this blank stare, and him walking away and going, yep. Yep. I had no clue what I was talking about.
It's exactly right. And I think it ties back into all of what we're talking about. Like, no matter what's done to you and no matter what boxes you've been in, like when you are healing yourself from that, you're in whatever way you're starting to build this culture of self-responsibility and empowerment and like not vacating yourself and not giving yourself away. And that in itself is this huge change. And this then you're this very beautiful, I'm losing the words. You're very beautiful, like
a whole being,
role model.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Example is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
To others, but then you're also like rippling that out, into the world. And so I just think I cannot stress it enough. I think everything.
It is everything, because how are we know, at least in this group, that our goal is to be a sovereign being.
Yes.
Like we want to be control of ourselves. Nobody controls me. I think my own thoughts, and nobody's going to ever change that. And I know what I think because of X, Y, and Z. No, we only feel that way because of our experiences. And you have your experiences, and Leah has her experiences, and Dee Dee has her experiences, but I don't know what those are like. But having the conversations is what frees all of us, because we are not giving that power away.
Yes.
And we share our wisdom, right?
Right.
That's what makes this group so valuable. Your audience is so valuable.
I agree. Because it's exactly like we were saying with the rats and the addiction as well. It's like, if you're alone and you're isolated, it's so much easier to fall back into it and to give up and to just, sure, take part of me, whatever. Like, I don't even care anymore. But when we're connected, we're powerful. We're way more powerful. We're way more capable.
Exactly. But that's our default because it's easy. And we want to hide from the world and not answer the door and not answer the phone. And they're kind of programming us to do that.
Yeah.
Like, all we want to do is watch TV.
Order in. Uber Eats. Yeah.
Like, I see my daughter just got married, and
congratulations.
And newlyweds, they should isolate, definitely, right?
Right.
Like, so we're very hands off, but they do that. They do the Uber Eats. I'm like, baby, you need to get out.
Yeah.
You need to move.
Yeah.
Go see your friends. Go hang out.
Yeah, and even if it's as simple as like going out to the restaurant and talking to the people who are like serving you or whatever, like even that, right. You need connection with people. They actually, in dementia, they say that it sets in faster and earlier for people who are who are less connected or whatever, and that one of the ways you can prevent dementia is by intentionally making sure you're making like eye contact connection with other humans every single day. And it sounds so sad that there are people who don't. But you're like, there are people who don't have any contact with other humans every day, unless it's like typing on a screen, which it's cool and it can do a lot, as we've seen in this group, but it's not everything. You still need real people to connect with. Even this, though, this counts. Like, we're looking at each other and we're interacting with each other and we're feeling connected. We have those emotional cues going on. So that is good enough, I think, too. But I think people really underestimate the value of connecting with anyone, stranger, friend, relative, doesn't matter.
Well, I think that's why guys die after they retire. Mm-hmm. Like, you see so many times over and over and over again, or they get Parkinson's or they get dementia. As soon as they retire, especially the older guys who've defined themselves by their job. Like, this is what we do. We work, right? We're workers. And then they take that away and then they isolate. Like, what purpose do they have anymore?
And we have such a stigma on like senior centers or these types of things where it's like, why? You should go out and like hang out with people.
Yeah.
And people your age are going to understand you better. It's like there's nothing wrong with them, but we like degrade being older and just let people die and rot.
Youth worship. Like, people.
Yeah.
That's why like, the actors in movies used to be older.
Yeah.
And now there are all these young kids that are grown in a Disney lab, you know?
Oh God, and all the chaos and horror that goes along with that. Ugh.
And they're terrible. If you look at some of the acting now, it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous. Like, who likes this garbage?
Yes.
But I find myself doing it anyway. Like, too, I'm like, wow, The Boys is pretty cool because it's superheroes.
Yeah.
Right? But some of it's pretty garbage.
Yeah. It is. We were just talking about this yesterday because we went to see Star Wars, and we're like, you kind of have to go at this point if you have been a part of Star Wars at all in your life because it's like the last one. But it was kind of trash. I'm like, I liked a lot of parts of it. I'll say that. But yeah, you're like, this is not good. It wasn't engaging emotionally. I didn't like care about any of it, which is weird. And that part of me was like, how much of this is just me like being, you know, kind of awake and whatever, but I've been pretty awake for like most of them. And so, you know, this one specifically was like very hard to connect with, but I think we just have all these like people fed into this system of entertainment, and we just like keep propping them up whether they're good or not, and you know, they look a certain way and so that's good enough or something, and it's like not. I don't know. I hate it. It would be neat if we had like more real sort of culture, and because it was pretty late in my life that I went to like my first live performance of something, and that's really cool. Like live performances are pretty amazing, whether it's dance or you know, music, but I'm specifically talking about plays and musicals, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty.
You'd never gone to a show or a concert or a play?
I went to concerts, but I was always very high for those, so like I don't know if that counts. But I went to my first musical. I was probably like 16 or 17, and I'd never been to like a play or anything before that. And it blew my mind. I was like, this is awesome because it's so engaging. Like, those are real people right there, and they're really skilled as well. You know, and then it's just a totally different experience. And I wish we had more of that as the expectation of how we ingested culture than from a screen.
I know. I'm trying to make it a concerted effort to get Out to shows, because that's where you feel the camaraderie. There's that. I've heard it described before. I can't say it now, but when you're in a group of like-minded people and you're doing, it's that ritualistic thing, maybe.
It is kind of, yeah. But in a positive way, we hope.
But in a positive, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to a really amazing show, like a concert, everybody's feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
Feeling whatever that vibe is that the show is, or amazing musician is putting out. Everybody's sharing that, which makes it exponentially more deep.
Yeah.
It's hard to put in words if you don't feel it.
Yes.
But it's the same thing with that stage show, because I did musicals as well.
Cool.
And when you're on stage and you're playing to an audience, that's why people they call it addicted to the stage.
Huh.
But like, you will always want to come back to that.
Because there's no feeling like that.
It's just nothing like that ever.
That's they have actually shown that people's hearts synchronize when they're engaged in.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's like a physical thing as well, which makes sense. I feel like any kind of true experience should touch on your mind, body, and soul. And if you're merging with these people emotionally, then I would see that, you know, it should be physically too.
Especially if it's not coming from a machine and somebody is really emoting through it.
Yes.
I had this voice teacher who taught me some of the best lessons just in life. She was a nun in Montana, and she sent me home one time. I was doing private voice lessons with her, and she's like, you don't care, go home. And I'm training to do this regional thing, and it was like a lot of pressure, and I had to had this amazing performance that I had to do for judges, and she sent me home. I'm like, what? She's like, you don't care, go home. If you don't care, don't do it.
Wow.
If you're not feeling feel what the song is. What is the guy talking about? Do it. She's like, if you don't do it and you don't care, don't do it and go home.
Yeah.
And like, it sat with me hard. Like that has been my whole life since then. Like, it's like, oh, right. It's not worth doing unless I feel it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't feel it, they're not going to feel it.
That is a beautiful realization, a powerful realization.
It's always been really powerful for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's just good advice for anyone too. You know, like that's how you know you're doing the right thing, is if you're like emotionally feeling it, you physically feeling it, and like mentally, and all of those systems are sort of engaged in what you're doing. Like,
right. Are you feeling your job? Do you have purpose? Does it drive you? No.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing it?
And maybe it did for a while. Like for me, for teaching for a long time, I was like very passionate about it. And I'm still passionate about it conceptually, but I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, I would totally do that again. Maybe not in a very different setting, I think.
If I could I've always wanted to make my own school. And if I could make my own school and do it the way I wanted, it'd be awesome. I would totally do that. But it takes a lot of money and stupid legalities. And there's a reason why not many people do things like that. And it's because they don't want you to. And they've made it really difficult to. So
right.
That's probably not going to happen. But I did want to give you the option. Do you want to do the magnet thing?
Oh, yeah. Let me go get them. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll fill time somehow. We'll see if anybody in chat has any cool things going on. Colleen is going to make plays part of her kids' schooling. That's awesome. I love that. Bruce Springsteen concerts are like that. I'm not very good at going to concerts. I'm not very good at watching movies or going to concerts, and I could definitely be better at that. There's been a few concerts I've been at that have like really got me engaged in what's going on. And like I said before, the rest of the time I'm just high and not engaged. So I don't get high anymore. So I could go to a concert and engage in it now. And sorry, I was just responding to some comments from the chat, but I see that you're back.
I'm back. So these are rare earth magnets from a laptop. And
you can just take those out of a laptop?
They're the sleep mechanism for your screen. When you put your screen down, puts your computer to sleep, there's a rare earth magnet.
In my mind, rare earth things are like so toxic, but you're just holding that. So obviously that's not true.
No, that's not.
Okay.
No, they're pretty condensed. Like you can hold tungsten. Tungsten is poisonous to you.
Okay.
If it goes into your system, but if you're holding the metal, it's fine.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
But tungsten around here it's in the soil because the Air Force dumps fuel, and it's in the soil in specific spots in Arizona, which have caused childhood leukemia in ridiculous ways.
Why
anyway,
do they do that? Like they're just like, yeah, just dump it, it's fine. Yeah. There was just that thing in California where a plane was like taking off and they accidentally dumped fuel on a fucking elementary school playground.
And the kids are like screaming and burning eyes and stuff.
Oh my God. And I'm like, they're like, oh, it's a malfunction and we accidentally dumped it way too low. But I was like, wait, you dump stuff at all? I didn't even know that until I read that article. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this must be really common. And yeah, no wonder people are dying.
Yeah. And they dump it for weight so they train that way so they can dump it before they land. So the aircraft is lighter at least in military craft.
How convenient for them.
Isn't it nice? So
all right.
Anyway, yeah, this is that. And I don't know if you can, I'll have to kind of turn around.
Okay.
See if I can. There it is. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
So I can.
Oh, it fell off. It was there for a second though.
So it sticks. So if I stick it anywhere else, it's gonna.
Yeah. Wow.
It's gonna stick to my sweat, but not. Not to my skin.
Right.
Like that looks weird. Oops. I messed up.
Wow.
But See, that's the thing that freaked out the doctors.
Wow. Yeah.
Because
it was there, but it fell off again.
Yeah. Well, it's underneath my skin, and I'm wondering now if it's lessening the older I get, because it's been in there.
Your body's probably eating it away.
It's probably eating it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
This
is people who watch this are going to go out now and get a magnet and like see if they have an implant, because I don't know, there's a couple people in the chat, and I know I myself have had experiences of people being in my room or my house or where I'm sleeping at night. And I had, when I was younger, I was probably 16 or 17, I think. I thought I had an implant behind my ear, though. It was like right here.
Oh, yeah.
And I could like feel it, and it would move around. So I don't know what the fuck that was, but it's gone. But it was there for a while, and during that time, very strange things would happen. And I was going to actually ask you this because of my experience with that. It seemed like there was always like an EMF wave maybe, or like some sort of like vibration, and I could hear it. It seemed really, really low, but strong, almost like just this like humming sort of background noise that would sort of start, and I'd kind of know then like what was going to happen, and it would like kind of give me anxiety, and sometimes my body would even start to vibrate really, really fast, and then I'd lose consciousness, and then, you know, all kinds of weird shit. But did you ever have any of that, like, is that vibrations or humming or anything similar?
There's definitely hummings, but it's environmental here.
Yeah.
But
not necessarily in connection with your experiences of presences.
I don't know. But I had crippling migraines. Like, that would put me out and like make me literally sick. I'd vomit, and it would put me out for a day or 2 days, and I couldn't move. That was part of getting to get the diagnosis for what was going on with my brain. But I definitely had ringing in the ears.
I hear that a lot from people who feel like they're targeted or have had other strange experiences, that they have really bad tinnitus.
Yes, tinnitus.
I have really minor tinnitus. I mean, I think I have like the amount that normal people would have, probably, like just every once in a while.
And it's hard for me to do too as a musician. Like, I've been in a lot of rock bands, and we were really loud.
Yeah.
So
you've been close and personal with some big speakers.
Right, exactly. That's probably something I did to myself.
Yeah. That's how I feel about
mine.
But
I don't know.
And you don't know, because it is one of many symptoms associated with these types of things.
So I'm not looking at the chats. Does anybody else identify with having implants or being targeted like that?
A couple people have mentioned it, but I can't remember where, and I don't know where.
Yeah, I'll go back and look, but
somewhere in the chat. But I was going to ask you if you wanted to be available for people, because I know the last episode we did with Courtney on autism and her success with treating that, she's gotten some people who have found it very helpful that she's been available to them to talk and share experiences and knowledge and whatnot. So I don't know if you want to be available to people who might have similar experiences or want validation or suggestions.
That's why I'm talking about it, because I want to know if there's other people out there. I want them to be able to feel like we're not alone.
Yeah.
In this, you know?
Yeah.
And it helps the healing process.
Absolutely. Because if you can't even admit or accept what's happened, you're never going to heal it. So
right. Totally.
I think that's cool. Exactly. So one of the ways that is easier for people is if you want to, after the show, go in and comment on the video and be like, hi, I'm Gordon. If you want to like chat, then people can just reply to that. And then if you have any other ways that you want to share, you know, you don't feel pressured to share anything else. But if you want to give anybody another method to get a hold of you, I don't know if you have anything in mind.
Anybody out? Yeah, because this is just going to go out on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. So if anybody wants to email me, I guess I could. Let me give out my. So I have Gordy Two Shoes. @gmail. Yeah.
Is it GORDY and then the number 2?
Yep. GORDY T 2 SHOES @gmail.
Okay, I'll just put that in the chat so people can see that and get in touch with you if they want to. Oh, I guess my DLive shut down at some point.
Oh,
that's sad.
Bummer.
Anyway, maybe I'll put it in there afterwards too for what's left of it. But that one gets disappeared in a few days anyway. So the YouTube is the more long-lasting link for anybody listening as well. Because I know some people are going to listen to this on the podcast and then they're going to be like, I need to talk to this guy. And they're going to come back and look for that. So that'll be waiting there for them. And then I do want
to talk to those people for sure.
That's awesome. And thank you for doing that. I mean, thank you for sharing it all, because I know there's a lot of stigma attached to this. There's a lot of people who dismiss all of it as, just mental illness and whatever. And I know I've seen.
Fine. I mean, I totally come at this with that understanding because I kind of thought people that had crazy stories like that were just nuts too.
Yeah. I think you kind of do that with anything that's, because it's kind of terrifying to imagine that people have a way of targeting you and getting into your house at night without anyone knowing and doing these things to you and, putting implants into your body, which you don't know about necessarily. There's no scar, there's no healing time, there's no stitches. Like, it's just hard to imagine, and it's terrifying to imagine. And so it's much easier to dismiss. But when you hear this from someone who's clearly like in a rational state of mind and has the ability to stick a magnet to their neck, I think it's a lot more convincing, obviously. And I hope that if there's some people who are skeptical out there, it's always good to be skeptical. Be skeptical.
Oh, you should be.
Right.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Maybe you have like a little bit more chance now of being like, okay, maybe there's something to this, and, maybe I shouldn't just dismiss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's very brave of you, and thank you for doing it.
Anything outside of our realm of comprehension, anything. Like, I mean, we've had ghost experiences that I was like, I don't understand what's happening here.
You're like, I don't believe in ghosts though, but that just happened. Right? Yeah.
That happened.
Right.
But I just got shoved up against a wall by nothing.
Yeah.
Like, how does that?
So that's interesting too. And we could probably do a whole other show on just this, but because I've also had a lot of paranormal experiences, and I wonder, like, what's the connection? Like, why does this all happen to like one person or whatever?
Isn't that so true? And
yeah.
Ever since, and I kind of, like, lately I've been thinking that I wonder if that's like a mental thing that we make up out of trying to deal with our own problems or issues, that our brain is actually trying to fix things, but it's coming out in weird ways. So we see weird things.
There is also the idea that like high levels of stress and fear or whatever, high levels of emotion that are really, really strong can, move things in the physical world. And so some people who have like, I can't remember the word for it, but infestation of ghosts or whatever entities in their house. I forget the word for
poltergeist.
Poltergeist. Thank you. Poltergeist type activity is often associated with people who are having really powerful emotionals, especially pubescent girls. We all know how emotional they are. So like there is something to that possibility that it is that.
Right.
And you're literally manifesting this.
Tulpas exist.
True. Yeah.
And they're just thoughts.
True.
But they're interacting with the physical world. So it has to be some sort of mechanism for it.
Right.
We just have no idea what those mechanisms are yet.
It could definitely be that. That's really interesting to think that is the connection. I love that. So I just wanted to ask a few questions in closing to sort of wrap things up. And one of them is I wanted to ask you kind of what sustains you through all this? Like what kept you going through all of it? What kept you from giving up?
I think different things throughout the process, I think. Like when I was young, it was the fear of hell. When I was older, married, it was my wife. After that, it was my daughter. Now, I feel by healing, I have purpose. Not just to do a thing, not to just get something done, but to heal and have the story. And it's so easy. Like it's not easy. I'm sorry. It's simple.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
It's
good distinction.
It's very hard, but it's like if somebody recommends a crappy movie to you and you're like, "Hey, I thought that was good." They're like, "No, it's garbage," but I said I loved it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's the hardest thing that you will ever do, and the most rewarding is to recognize yourself, feel those things, and heal through it. Because everything up since that point has seemed like a different world. Like I know, like I have friends that are like, "Dude, you are a different person."
Yep.
And I go, yeah. You're right. Completely.
And really, it's that you're finally yourself.
Right, exactly. And I didn't know who that was.
Totally.
I had no idea who that was until just recently. So now I'm just curious who I am.
Yeah.
Like, what do I like? What do I want? It's like starting over.
Yes.
But having all the experiences that you had up to this point to get you through there.
People won't necessarily believe this, especially because I like kind of smile the whole show unless something specifically bad is happening, and I like giggle a lot. But just a few years ago, I almost never smiled, and I definitely never laughed out loud. Even in like a comedy show, I would just like, huh. Like that was like kind of my like extent of emotional whatever telegraphing. And so but yeah, this healing has sort of like, oh yeah, I'm like a happy person. Like I love life. I love people. I love myself. Like totally different. People are like, wow, like you really changed. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I think like I was always this person though. I just finally
we didn't know it.
Yeah.
We didn't know who we were.
I didn't know how to just be myself, like, or just exist. Yeah. You're just always in this state of like we were talking about, like vacating yourself, and you're not emotional when you're doing that.
So what precipitated you working through your trauma?
Well, at the very beginning, I sought therapy because I had like another bad relationship, after a string of just bad relationships over and over again. And otherwise I had been kind of doing well, like I had gone to college and I was starting to, I was doing my internship actually for teaching. And, so I was like successful in other ways, but I just kept doing this. And I was like, I don't get why I can't stop dating shitty fuckheads. Like I choose that for some reason, but like I think I'm not choosing it every time, and then every time it's this shitty fuckhead. And like, what am I doing wrong? And I must need a therapist to understand this, because I can't do it. I can't not choose shitty people. And so I actually asked Catholic Community Services for help, because they will connect you with, there's a lot of therapists who are basically getting their hours in to get certified, and they can't charge for those hours. And so Catholic Community Services will connect people who need therapy and don't have money for it to therapists who need clients who they can't charge. And so I was really lucky to get connected with a really, really good therapist. And that's when I did psychotherapy. And I learned in that process that I never, ever was in connection with any of my emotions, which I would not have believed if you told me that, because I had gone through lots of counseling, and I knew how to talk about emotions, and I knew how to say like the right things, and I knew all that stuff, but I did not know that I wasn't actually ever feeling anything. And that blew my mind.
You would have never known.
No, I would have never known.
We would have gone through our whole lives not really feeling anything authentic.
Yes.
Right.
And I can't even explain it to people. Like, I had no clue that that was true. I would have never believed you if you told it to me, ever. I would have been like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
But it was true.
I know exactly what I'm feeling. Don't tell me how I think I feel.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, she just kept pointing out, like, she'd be like, how do you feel? And I would be like, I think like this. And she's like, that's a thought. What's your feeling? And I'm like, well, it's like da da da. And she's like, that's a whatever. It's not a feeling. How are you feeling? And I just get so mad. And I'm like, that is how I feel. And she's like, that's not a feeling. I was like, fuck. And it was hard because then I had to be like, well, how do you feel then? Like, how do you do that? And she had to, like, teach me. It's so weird. It's so weird to talk about because I think, like, again, if you're if you're watching this and you're kind of like, how could a human not feel, or how could you not know what you're feeling? But, like, there's a lot of us, man.
But that's what trauma does.
That is what trauma does. It literally, you're not connected to it.
Our natural mechanism is to separate.
And that's why she's like, you can't find a good man if you're not emotional, because you have to be so emotional that you literally feel from them a connection. And I was like, like, what is that? Like, you know, because I'd never had that. So that started the process, but it was still many years after that before I found out that I had PTSD and got PTSD treatment, because she wasn't a PTSD therapist. So there's, you know, counseling is one step and it's like, it can be helpful or whatever. And then therapy is the next step. But even within therapy, there's all these different types. And depending on what your issue is, you're going to need a different type of therapy.
Yeah. And I'm sure a therapist would tell you, like, what I did is probably not what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do this stuff in the care of a physician, you know, there, as they say. But yes, you definitely want to start this with therapy, because if you think you've got something like that, do it in therapy. Because doing it on your own is emotionally crushing. It will crush you, or it can.
And I think you just don't necessarily have the tools, even if you think you do.
I didn't know what to do or where to even look to go, you know?
Yeah.
Had I not been to therapy trying to figure this stuff out before that.
Yeah.
You know?
And
I didn't do EMDR and all that stuff.
You have done EMDR?
No, I didn't.
Oh, not yet.
I did that. Not yet. Well, that's true. Not yet.
There's still time. There's people who don't trust psychotherapy and they don't trust EMDR and they think that it's like, you know, programming and I'm like, then I guess if you want to call it, like, technically it is like reprogramming yourself, but also, like, my life is awesome now and it was not before. So, like, I'm perfectly happy with it. I realize that any psychological tool can be used against humans. Like, that's the nature of psychology. So, again, be skeptical and, like, do research and understand things, but don't just, like, discount. Everything is a tool, right? You can be used for evil, it can be used for good. So just find people you trust. I'd say I've been very lucky to find therapists that are really, really deeply good people who I trust deeply and on a spiritual level. And I think that is another aspect that is important if someone's looking for that.
Yes, because if you don't trust them, you could go down a bad road. I had one therapist that this was early on, before I knew what was happening, and she kept saying that I was saying I was abducted by aliens, and I never said that. I'm like, and I never did that. She's like, so who are these little green men in your bedroom? I'm like, what? That's like, not what
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Don't fucking put words in my mouth.
Yeah. Wow. So, that's not a good therapist. Yeah. That's a really good example of a really bad therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how demeaning is that?
So it's hard to find somebody who's trustworthy, but it's very, very valuable when you do.
Agreed. And I wish that there was no stigma on it, because I know, especially for men, there can be like this, like, oh, we don't talk about our feelings. And it's like, that's actually like the one thing you really need to do.
And especially in the church, if you grew up in the church, you go to their counselors. Oof. You go to the Christian counselors. And it's, oh God, it's so unhealthy. It just reinforces bad habits, reinforces not feeling, you know, not authentically being.
Yeah.
It's a terrible cycle.
Ugh.
Because I did that too many years ago. That's a rough road. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want people to know when I said Catholic Community Services, I in no way ever went to like a church or talked to priests or anything. It was just, it's literally a community service they provide.
Yeah, it's a charity, right? It's like a 501c3 thing.
Catholic Community Services, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people, so like people listening to this are like, oh, she's Illuminati. She went to the Catholics and got like reprogrammed by their priest. Yeah, and I'm like, no. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't trust Catholics either, but this was like, I had no contact with anyone except, submitting my request and my address and phone number, and then getting a call back like 6 months later when they finally had like a spot for me, and that was the extent of it. So it wasn't.
So how do you think you got the thing in your ear?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that at that time I had a lot of very strange experiences with craft and lights in the sky and people in my room at night and missing time, like the whole gamut. And this was like before the internet and before I didn't know those types of things like happened to other people, or I had nothing in my imagination to like provide me with the fodder for these if they were like very active hallucinations. And so other people were involved in a lot of them, and so I had some outside validation as well. And but yeah, I just had this like lump behind my ear after a very strange night, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And like I said, it would like move, and I think like I don't even know how that would be possible, especially if it was like a cyst or like something normal. It wouldn't move, but yeah, it was there. And I was like, well, probably like a lot of people who think that they have an implant, I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking tell anyone, because then they'll just lock me up like a freak or whatever. So I'm just gonna like hope this goes away or something. And there's not a lot of help out there for any of this stuff. It's exactly but it did go away, and a lot of those experiences stopped. I still see a lot of craft and lights and strange things in the sky, but they don't necessarily interact with me anymore like they used to seem to.
How did they interact with you?
So this is it's like they're basically like psychic. Whatever they are, they're psychic is the best word to describe it. They respond to your thoughts.
Yep.
And it's instantaneous and it's ubiquitous. They all do it, and they seem to want to communicate in some way, but they don't, or at least I'm not psychic enough to receive anything back from them. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because there was like times where I feel like they would kind of push like getting closer and closer and closer to me in physical reality while I was conscious, at least, because I think there was things that happened when I was unconscious as well. But if I ever said like, fuck, this is scary now, like get away, they would back off. So like there's some aspect of whatever that entity or intelligence is that was respectful at some level. But I've never ever come up with like a conclusion to whether they're like good or bad. I have no clue what they are.
Yeah. So I had this experience driving out to, I used to do, I was the art manager for a company that did conventions and stuff. So we're going out to a mining company out in rural Arizona, going to do some sort of event at their place, right? And we have to drive forever to get there. And I see these five, like what looks like it's a triangle, the V-shaped formation, the delta kind of shape in the distance, and it's pieces, right? So I'm thinking, that's weird. That's Canadian geese, but why would they be going north if it's springtime? And I just thought that for a quick sec, and I'm like, whatever. So we keep driving, and we just see them, and they're not moving. They're just sitting there, stationary.
Yeah.
And I tell my coworker, like, hey man, do you see that? And we can see it the whole time because it's this long winding road up and into the mountains. And they stay there the whole time. They're not moving at all. And it's 5 silver balls. Huh. And He goes, yeah. And we just sit there in silence, looking at him for the longest time. And we get closer and closer and closer. And we get to a point where we're kind of, I'm looking at it, but it's that unknowing feeling of, or not unknowing, it's a knowing of a feeling that they're looking at you too.
Yeah.
So
like
I'm
you don't
looking
get
at
that
them.
when you look at just like a cloud or something like.
No.
Yeah.
You look at it when you look at a dog.
Yes.
Or a predator.
Or a person.
Or a person, exactly. And I was looking at it, and I knew that it was looking at me. And as soon as I recognized that thought, they disappeared.
Yeah.
It just like phased out. And it was the weirdest, it changed. That was one of those life-changing moments that the world is so much bigger than we can possibly fathom.
It's so much weirder.
It's so exactly right. And the weirdness is the fractal that we keep going down. It's one point of light on that fractal of weirdness that is whatever the hell we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. It's a really good way to describe it too, because I think people, especially because of this show and like, you know, my role here or whatever, like people are kind of like, why haven't you told us all of this? And I'm like, dude, this has been happening to me for my whole life. Like there's too many stories to tell. I don't know when I would tell everybody. Most, you know, people and I've also had this thing where this, shaman woman kind of got mad at me once, and she's like, you need to stop, because I used to tell everyone. I was like, dude, shit is crazy. There's fucking craft up there. Who knows what the fuck they are? They'll like respond to your thoughts, watch, and I could like get them to come or whatever and show people. I would like fuck with people. And she was like, you have to stop. Like you can't just pluck people out and just like blow their mind and like it ruins people. Like it fucks people up and you can't do that anymore. And I, you know, this is another weird experience in itself because I never told her that I did do that, but you know, she's psychic or whatever. And so she was like, you can't do this anymore. And so I took that very seriously. I kind of recognized like how hard that would be if you're someone who's not ready to hear these things, you know, or experience these things, to have that happen to you. And so I stopped just telling people things, but when people ask, I will always tell them. So I always tell people, like, if you want to know, you can ask and I'll tell anybody anything, but I don't just plop it out for people to understand anymore, because I just don't know who is ready to hear it and who isn't. And I don't want to be the reason somebody goes insane or whatever.
Right. That's a heavy burden.
Yeah.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah. And I'm glad that she told me that, because I think I would have kept doing it, and who knows what damage I already did kind of, and who knows like how much more I would have done. And so I take that to heart. That's one of my sort of like sacred duties, is to not fuck people's heads up anymore. But so I love this show because I get to talk about all these sorts of things, and I don't necessarily have to like say my own shit or whatever. Right. But I will if people ask.
So what do you think it is about us that, because I think it's not just interacting with us. I think it's us recognizing the weirdness.
Yes. Well, I think
like
that's exactly one of the things, is like you and I and whoever, you know, because a lot of people would walk by this shit and not even notice it. And I'm not exaggerating. Like there will be shit happening in the sky and no one will look. I've seen like a plane fly and turn into a different type of plane in broad daylight, and nobody fucking noticed. And I'm like, that's not even possible, but it is possible because most people aren't paying attention most of the time. So I think part of it is just that we notice things. We're people who notice things. I think that's just a very simple part of it. I think that might be like the basis of it, but I'm pretty sure there's other things.
Yeah, there must be some sort of awareness that, but I don't know. I mean, is it just that we recognize that the world is weirder, and so we don't have those blinders on? Like, it's like they use that analogy with UFOs of the Indians seeing the ships coming over in Columbus, you know, like that whole myth that the Indians didn't know what they were looking at when the ships were coming over.
So they just didn't see them really or something?
Yeah, they didn't see them. Of course they saw them.
Right.
They may not have known what to call it, but they saw a thing.
Yes. Yeah.
or that the conquistadors came on horses, and so thought they were this magical beast, man beast, you know?
Yeah. Well, that would trip you out, right?
That would trip you out.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know how to. And I do think that's part of it, because I've told this story a few times too, where a pretty intense encounter happened with some lights or craft or whatever you want to call those, and there was four or five, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 other people in the car with me when it happened. We all saw it, and in the moment it was like everyone was like, holy fucking what the fuck, like, you know, we were all like in that moment experiencing that, and within like an hour nobody saw that, nobody remembers that, and memories were not wiped. I have my memory, like it wasn't like that sort of a thing. It was like, if you can't deal with it, it's just like trauma, like if you can't deal with it, you vacate it.
It's trauma.
It is trauma, yeah, in itself. And I was just like present enough, or maybe I was disassociated enough to begin with that I was able to.
That's an interesting thread.
I've never thought of that before.
Too, that the trauma makes us sensitive to those things.
That might be it too. And I've heard that actually posited from other.
Really?
Yeah. Because like almost everyone who has had experiences like these does have severe trauma somewhere in their roots. And so that's interesting. It's almost like this other theme that sort of keeps coming up over and over again is that this, like, the darkness, or, you know, the sort of evil or whatever is like on some level good for you, because it like forces you to like either do or die, like prove it or don't, you know. It's like a kind of forces you to like grow to get beyond the evil or the darkness. And so maybe that's somehow connected to this, like having trauma allows you to like sort of see these things more clearly. Or not that I want anyone to have trauma or go through like these horrible things or whatever, you know.
I'm going to kill myself and bring myself back to life just so I know what's on the other side.
Yeah, like don't go down that path.
Don't do that.
And I always like try to bring up when we're talking about these types of things too, that people are like, oh, you're so lucky, like you've seen all that and you've done all that and like you kind of whatever, and I want these experiences. And I'm like, I don't know if you want these experiences. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It is, especially when it was first happening to me, like it was really hard to figure out if I was insane or not. I was like, maybe I'm just totally crazy. Like maybe I'm like really, really far gone and I don't even know. Because then you start questioning everything. You're like, are the people I talk to even real? Like, like really dark places in your mind you can go.
Oh, yeah.
That makes you question kind of everything.
Yep.
And luckily I came out the other side of that and was like, yeah, I have enough like evidence that this is actually happening and I'm not insane, and you know, that's lucky. But like I'm sure there's people who don't quite make it through that, and I don't know that you actually want these types of things to happen to you. But
yeah, I totally kind of blocked out that in my paranoia. I was paranoid, but I wasn't delusional.
yeah.
So I was being followed,
Yeah.
and I was paranoid that I was being followed. But then, like, you know, I questioned that. And I kept questioning it until I did kind of drive myself crazy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't delusional. I didn't see things. And it wasn't until like I had traced down that video footage of the helicopters buzzing my house. I was like, oh, thank God. Okay.
It still exists.
It did happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened, but it did happen. And it's like that thing I posted just the other night on Eyes with that thing in the desert, that light. And it's almost identical to what they say the Brown Mountain lights are.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Min Min lights in Australia.
Yeah.
It looks just like that.
It's like plasma floating around or whatever.
Right. And it's just floating and like maybe pulsing, and then it just goes away.
Yeah.
But it's something.
And it does
Like,
things that no one can explain.
Well, it seems to interact with my wife, not me.
Huh.
Because
That's interesting.
She's the one that knew it was happening. She's like, get up, look at that.
Wow.
And she's seen it twice. So, but she seems to know it's happening when it happens. But I don't get that.
See that, because that's the other thing I was going to suggest is there's some people who are more like psychic or whatever.
Yeah.
Some extrasensory thing, and that's part of why these things happen. But that would almost indicate that she's like more that than you are. But you guys How many experiences did you have before you ever met her?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, was it all after her? I'm not trying to blame her for anything.
No. But
I'm just wondering if she's like the anchor almost or whatever.
Very much so. Both my wife and my daughter are very intuitive.
Okay.
And they can feel things.
Yeah.
I don't know if like it's hard to come up with a different term for spirit or
because we don't know for sure what it is, but
we don't know what it is.
But I know what you're saying. Intelligences, entities,
right?
Right.
Entities. We don't even know that they're entities.
True.
Like, is it something we're making up? I don't know, but I saw some shit at the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
I don't even want to touch.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, I saw her go into a stall, like a changing stall in the pool area of the Queen Mary, and I watched a shadow figure follow her and go into that room.
Wow.
He came out, and that other figure did not.
Had she noticed it?
Yeah, that's why she left the room.
She's like, screw this place.
Yeah. Yep, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm also similar in that I can sense sort of things extrasensorily or whatever, however you're supposed to describe that. That is interesting. I wonder. So, but it's also interesting because I feel like we tend to find other people who are also, I guess having experiences or like have sort of more connection with these types of things or deeper intuition or something once you're kind of there. Or at least once you're healed and you're no longer dating like pieces of shit, alcoholics or whatever, I think we're kind of like drawn to each other.
When you're in it, you can't have that connection.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't see outside of yourself to even connect with, to make sense that is a problem first.
Right.
That's what's holding you back first. To be able to even connect with somebody else on a personal level.
Absolutely.
But when you do, you're right though. There's like this gelling.
Yes.
Almost like when I was telling you, like, I feel like you're reading my mail. Like,
yeah.
You're saying things that I was thinking, but you wrote it first.
Yes.
Like, that's a creepy feeling.
Yeah.
Or you would say it. Like the other night, you said, we were talking about, it was the Green Man one.
Yeah.
And you said, Johnny said something about it being swamp thing.
Yeah.
I had just wrote that.
That's so funny.
Like, that is so weird. But there is kind of a Jungian collective conscious.
Yeah. Well, and this is something that, comes back to, it's a very practical aspect of the reason why you want to heal and then connect with other people. And hopefully it's one of the reasons why we're drawn to each other when we sort of have these types of experiences and abilities or whatever, is that together, like I said before, like we're stronger in all these interpersonal ways, but what if we're like actually strengthening some sort of like real sort of ethereal like network or something, that like adds strength to this existence or something. Like I kind of think about that sometimes. Like I think there's reasons why we connect with other people, and I don't think that it's just personal. I think that it actually like affects the outside world in some way. So I think there's something to that. Like I think it's literally being created as we all connect.
Well, maybe that's how cultural phenomena starts, is by us connecting and the other thing happening ethereally sparks somebody else. And maybe that's how like pieces of art that are just like each other happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But they're kind of the same thing. Or somebody will write a book with one conclusion and somebody else comes at it at a very different conclusion, but it's the same conclusion.
Yes. Okay. So like
ways.
Just watched Star Wars, and part of what I hated about it was that it has like a bunch of the book that I'm writing right now in it. And I'm like, you fuckers. And I know like there's nothing new under the sun, and I know like it's probably been done a million times and all these things, and I like get that, but I'm also like, well, nobody's even gonna believe that it was just like my original thing that like I put in there. But I was also like, whatever, because this is like the same sort of idea. Like these ideas are trying to come through right now, and they're going to come through apparently Disney and me or whatever.
That's interesting too, though, that, yeah, there's something out there that, because I've done that too with art. Like in the 80s, I used to draw these exploding bombs and 8-balls and things like that. In the 90s, like all these people started doing little cherry bombs and 8-balls and dice. And that was like a really big thing. I was like,
you stole my ideas.
Yes. That was me, man.
Yes.
I still have the tie to prove it.
Yes, that happens all the time. I like Freeman Fly has talked about that as well, where he'd like would draw something as a child and then later it'd be in like a movie or something, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
I seriously, and I wonder sometimes if like that's actually part of why people like us are like tapped or, you know, tapped into or affected or whatever by these other forces, is that they're like, oh, these are like truly creative people and we need to like get their resources so that we can like pretend to be creative over here and distract everyone or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Literally stealing your ideas or something before you even knew them, maybe.
Interesting that you brought up Freeman too. I was thinking about his invisible experience. Do you remember him telling that story?
Yeah. Where he's like, I can become invisible. Like, I just like walked by these guys. Yeah.
Walk through security. I get through every concert free because I'm invisible. Like, I heard somebody else say the same thing, and I'd never heard anybody else say that except for Freeman.
That's pretty cool.
That sounds like a crazy thing, but I just heard it the other day and I don't remember where it was.
I believe that if you believe something enough, like it becomes real. I've had the experience multiple times now where like just because I'm not thinking, I go up to a gas tank, I go up to a gas station and I get out and just start pumping gas, and then I just drive away, and like 10 minutes later I'm like, oh, I didn't even pay for that. And it's happened multiple times, and my only explanation is I just believed it was gonna pump, and so it did, and then I left. Like, you know,
you actually pumped gas that you didn't pay for?
Yes, and this is all of the times it's happened has been since they've like automated it all or whatever. You know, like it was never.
You couldn't get gas if you didn't.
Exactly. Really? But I've done it, yeah, and I've done the same with locked doors and like, you know, like. I can't even think of the explanations, but like a light or something, I'd like turn it on and people be like, oh, the light works again, and I'd be like, oh, was it not working? Like, you know, like I think like if you just like expect it and believe it enough that it's just gonna like be that way. And so I almost wonder with Freeman and these other people if they're just like, I am invisible, like, you know, and they just like believe that and then it works. Because and I almost did it. I was at Graceland and I was like, we're not going to pay $60 to go look at Elvis's toilet. Like, let's just like walk over there.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was like, I can't be. I'm going to pay all this money and get in there and be pissed that I paid it. I just can't do this. And so,
yes, you will be.
And so I was like, well, let's just walk through. We're just going to do it. And it was working. We made it all the way to like the cutoff point where if we were on the other side, it would have been like probably maybe clear to go though, like past the ticket guy or whatever. Like he didn't notice us or whatever. And as soon as I thought, I wonder if they're going to see us, somebody went, miss. And I was like, fuck, I just did that to myself. I could have got in. But
Isn't
I do.
That amazing?
I do. I think the power of our mind is like beyond what we think.
But what if that's our natural state of being and we're constantly convincing ourselves that we're not?
Yes. Well, and we're are convinced.
Right. We are convinced. But how do we get to the point where we're not consciously sabotaging ourselves 24/7?
Yeah. Well, I think that is part of the whole thing we've been talking about is like you have to heal all of your trauma in order to truly be present in the moment. And if you're truly present in the moment, I think you can start to access some of those things.
Right.
Even though I just described being like not present in the moment in the way that I was like distracted, not thinking about paying for the gas, I was fully present in the moment of actually pumping the gas. I was like, I'm pumping gas now. Here we go.
Maybe more in the moment.
Maybe. Because I wasn't thinking about these like possible barriers or whatever.
Right. Because if you'd have been that present, you would have been present enough to pay for it. Yeah.
It's pretty weird. It's like a weird conundrum though too. Like I always want to be careful with this stuff because I don't think you should like be like, I can fly and jump off a building. Like, you know, start baby steps.
Like, I'm invisible. I'm going to get into a concert.
Right.
Try that one first.
Right. Try that. That's a lot safer.
Well, depending on the concert, maybe not.
True. All right. Well, I guess we should start to wrap things up because we've almost gone 2.5 hours. So I'm going to,
wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Time flies when you're having fun with good company. Awesome. But I definitely want to thank you again. I feel very honored that you would share this story with me and with us. And I know that it'll help a lot of people, and I'm proud of you, and I think you're brave. And I'm also very grateful that you would do that. So thank you for that. And I want to ask you, as I ask everyone, what your sort of final thoughts are that you want to leave people with as they're heading out and away from this show.
That the weirdness that we're attracted to, I think, can also be a distraction.
Good point.
That it's the fractal thing. Don't get stuck on one thing, because then that becomes a distraction. If we look back, maybe we can get a picture of the picture. Maybe we can get one puzzle piece of the puzzle piece, or maybe find one corner of it, but you're not going to know what we're putting together until you take the 10,000 foot view of everything. Of your emotions, of your trauma, or that weird ass event, or why this person did that thing, or why your fucked up brain did that fucked up thing.
Yeah.
Right? Keep asking the whys, and then the why after that, and then the why after that, and constantly keep those critical thinking skills going, because that's how we will get better.
Well said. I love that point a lot about, not getting stuck on just one thing, and especially when it's like these fear porn things that they have going on, and it's really, really attractive to be like, oh my God, but what if, and what are we going to do? And it's like, You just have to get back from that.
As fun as the Epstein didn't kill himself meme thing is, it's fun. We can't get stuck on that one thing.
Right.
They're distracting us with a whole shitload of other things.
Exactly. They'll just stop you in your tracks.
Right.
Well, thank you again, Gordon, and fellow travelers of the path. It is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to Gordon Hamill. Gordon, thank you again so much for being here tonight and sharing your story.
I really appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Been fun.
Some experiences leave you wondering if you've lost your mind, and those inducing these experiences upon you couldn't be happier for you to question yourself. Trauma makes it very difficult to remember, and the darkest forces love that about their torture of you. If you cannot remember and you cannot trust yourself, you are the easiest of targets. This is why it is vital to intentionally go traipsing down the path of memory and experience. It is crucial that you learn to trust yourself and literally remember, put yourself back together, yourself. We are all a bit broken, and most of us still have pieces of ourselves to recover from some distant shore that we left them on. So get in your boat and go after them. They are you, and you need all of you, whole and at peace, in order to move forward. So until you find every last piece of yourself and reintegrate it, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make it don't hurt. While up on earth, my bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Work more than one can speak, while the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can television filled with lies disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Henio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me? Run.
molded from the ether. The material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't meeting me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forge with Yggdrasil, branch down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter. Let they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the back to the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. Put nanotech in the lungs. The awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking run.